the end of the weekend, and South Africans are bracing for a week of blackouts. Eskom will implement stage 2 blackouts from 5 a.m. tomorrow. Staying on blackouts, new research from the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research shows that 2022 is exceeding 2021 as the year with the most frequent power cuts by 228%. Let's discuss this further. We're now joined by Monique Le Roux from the CSIR. Thank you so much for your time, Monique. We do appreciate it. I am very passionate about speaking about how disgraceful load shedding is, and you've come out with some new research that shows that September could possibly be the worst month of load shedding that this country has ever experienced. Speak to us about that.
Hello, Heidi. Yes, absolutely. As you've said already, in September or year to date, when we're looking at the stats from January to September, we've already seen an increase of 228%. That's just for the year up to September. That's not including what's going to happen in the rest of the year. We're looking at hours compared. In 2021, we had 1,170 hours of load shedding. Year to date, we've had 1,950 hours of load shedding, where most of that load shedding has happened in stage 3 and stage 4 and stage 5.
That's what I wanted to ask you about the different stages, because I think what was shocking for many South Africans in September is that we were subjected to stage 6 load shedding, despite the fact that it wasn't for that long, but still we had stage 6 and everybody started panicking because we ordinarily would have stage 1 or stage 2 or up to stage 4.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a worrying trend where we've seen increasing stages in the second half of the year, especially in September, where we've been in stage 5 load shedding for 155 hours, stage 6 for 50 hours, and stage 4 for 530 hours, which is a large amount of time to be in very high stages of load shedding. It doesn't seem like it's getting much better when we look at some of the early October stats.
Yeah, it doesn't actually look like it's ever going to get better, because if you compare year on year, as we've mentioned, this year is possibly the worst year of load shedding, September possibly being the worst month. We don't know what the rest of the 2 months or so that we have left of the year. But I want to ask what else has come in your research. I know it's quite an extensive report, but specifically about load shedding and how serious the problem actually is.
Yes, our report will be published this week, but we show in our report that Eskom's energy availability factor has seen a radical decline in this year specifically. But if you look at the compounding years from 2017 to up to 2022, we've gone from an energy availability factor of 75 to 80% to in the low 50s to 60% where it's sitting currently. That means that Eskom's fleet is available for only 50 to 60% of the time at the moment. We all know that the fleet is quite old, so we could assume that they're going to struggle to keep the energy availability above the factor that it is now. And they're also going to struggle to get it higher due to the age of the plant and the small or short time that they've got to bring new generation online.
I want to speak about the hours that South Africans are subjected to load shedding. Of course, it's always peak hours that Eskom wants to implement load shedding because that's the highest usage. But for example, this past weekend, we had no rolling blackouts because of what Eskom says is a lot lower demand compared to the week when businesses go back to full operation and there's more electricity consumption. What have you found in terms of the hours that load shedding is implemented?
So in the past years, definitely we've seen that load shedding was implemented more frequently over peak hours when the load was highest. But our research now shows, in the report that we're going to publish, will also clearly show that load shedding was implemented throughout the day, throughout the night, and most South Africans will know about that, which indicates that Eskom does not have a capacity problem anymore, which they had in the past, but they've got now an energy problem where you don't have enough energy to service the needs of the country. But if you look at the hours, as we've discussed previously, most of our hours were in stage 4 and 5 load shedding. That definitely increased in the months of September, where most of the hours were in stage 4 and stage 5 load shedding.
Okay, well, I mean, I thought that you would have some kind of good news, but you clearly don't. Just lastly, Monique, maybe just tell us about what else your research is looking at. I know the report is not fully out yet, but I think what's crucial here is that you have been able to ascertain, which I think is rather obvious because the writing is on the wall, the fact that this has been the worst year of load shedding. But what else has come out that's crucial for South Africans to know when it comes to load shedding?
Okay. Interesting from the report to see is that the renewables have played quite an important role to mitigate against load shedding, specifically in the peak hours, where in the morning peak, wind and solar combined has contributed almost 10% to the supply during those hours. In the evening peak, we're looking at wind, which has contributed about 4% to the total supply. So some good news is that the government is running quite an aggressive renewable energy and IPP procurement program, and those might see some new capacity coming online in 18 to 24 months, which should alleviate some of the load shedding. All those stats will be available when we publish that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. I just want to reiterate the point that during September, there was a total of 570 hours of load shedding, just in the month of September, just for some perspective. I really hope that the powers that be are watching this so that they can understand how serious the problem actually is. That was Monique Le Roux from the CSIR.